Okay, so how do we solve just a general linear equation? We have some equation, it can be written in linear form. How do we solve it? It might not start off written in linear form. Maybe we have something like this. X minus 1 over 2 plus 1 equals, I don't know, 2x plus 6 over 3. Okay, messy fraction thing. Maybe it's not obvious to you that this is linear right off the bat. There's a lot of different ways that we can work on this. So some people just don't like fractions. And one thing we can do is we can just get rid of all the fractions right off the bat. So if I multiply both sides by 2, I'd get rid of this fraction. I can't just multiply the left side by 2 without multiplying the right, but if I multiplied both sides by 2, it would get rid of that fraction. And if I multiplied both sides by 3, it would get rid of that fraction. But there's a number I could use that would get rid of both fractions in one step, and that number is 2 times 3. So what I can do is I can multiply by the least common denominator. So I multiply both sides. I wrote the 6 on the left here and the right there. It doesn't really matter because a times b is b times a. So what's this going to do? Well, 6 divided by 2 gives me 3, so I get 3x minus 1 plus 6 equals, well, I have 2x plus 6 times 2. I need to do some multiplication now. I'm just distributing. So all I've done so far is I've eliminated the fractions and then I distributed. Now it'd be nice if I could move everything over to one side and then combine any terms which are the same. So let's try that. And I could move things to the left or to the right, it doesn't really matter. I don't know. Let's take care of that first. And let's move things to the right. I would get 4x plus 12 minus 3x minus 3, which would give me x, and the 12 minus 3 gives me 9. So I have the equation x plus 9 equals 0. My a would be 1, my b would be 9. And I could solve this just using the x equals negative b over a. I could do that. In this case, a is 1, b is 9. That tells me x is negative 9 over 1, or x is negative 9. Or at this point, I imagine most of you would want to subtract 9 from both sides, because that gives me negative 9 equals x. Either way works. But what did we do here? Well, what we did is we multiplied to get rid of any fractions. So you can remove fractions. You don't have to. You can work with the fractions the entire way through until the last step. They'll disappear. In a situation where we have a whole number, we'll be able to get rid of them. But a lot of students in a class at this level just don't like fractions. And it's usually a good idea to get rid of them when you can. You should be able to work with them when you have to, but remove them when you can. Then what we're going to do is we're going to simplify, which means to distribute. That's what we did here after our multiplication. We move everything to one side. And then what we did is we combined. We had x's and we had constants. So we combined the like terms, the x's and the constants. And then finally, we try to isolate the variable, get the x by itself. Here, the constant was 1, so that was not a big deal. Now, there's one more optional step which I like, which is check your work. So, how could we check our work? Well, in order to check our work, we just want to plug -9 into the original equation. So if I were to do that, I'll rewrite the equation quickly. What happens if I plug -9 into here? So I'll get -9 minus 1 over 2 plus 1 equals 2 times -9 plus 6 over 3. So, if this equation is true, then I found the solution. What do I get? I have -10 over 2 plus 1 is equal to -18 plus 6 over 3. That's -5 plus 1 equals, well, -18 plus 6, that's -12 over 3. So this is -4 equals -4, and it is true. I've checked my work. I know for sure my answer is correct, and I didn't make arithmetic mistakes. Arithmetic mistakes are easy to make. We took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, maybe 7 steps, depending on how we did it. Plenty of room to make a mistake. It only takes a moment to plug a number in. And you might have been able to do it sort of without doing so many steps. Just looking at this, hey, -9 minus 1, -10, half of -10 is 5, that's -4. And then you look on the right. So probably good to take a moment and check. You don't have to check in order to get the right answer here. We certainly were able to get it without checking, but just my advice.